Teasel's Tudor Trivia!
Hi, welcome to Teasel's Tudor Trivia with Teasel the dog and me, Claire Ridgway. Just realised I'm absolutely covered in dog hair. I wonder why. Now, yesterday I spoke about, Teasel helped me speak about Tudor drinks and recipes that you could make at Christmas time. Now, Teasel drinks only water, so she hasn't tried any of them herself. But I've explained to her that generally in Tudor times, they weren't drinking mulled wine and hippocras all the time. And they weren't drinking water like Teasel does because water wasn't safe to drink unless you were lucky enough to live near a natural spring. Ale is what Tudor people would drink on a day-to-day basis. So I'm going to share with you some information from a talk I did for the Tudor Society a while ago on drinks. And in this one, we're going to focus on ale. So you ready to learn about some ale? Yeah, you're going to fall asleep. Now, Tudor-style ale was a bit different from the real ales that people enjoy today. After all, in the Tudor period, an average person would drink about 8 pints of ale a day. So they wouldn't be much good at work or doing the housework of that if they were drunk all the time. So it was a lot weaker. Ale was made from barley, with 6 acres of barley per person being needed. And unlike beer, it didn't contain hops. Yeast was needed, and the yeast grew on grain and the skins of fruit. And in the Tudor Monastery Farm series, which I'd highly recommend, Ruth Goodman explained that yeast could be captured from the air by mixing flour and water in a bowl and standing it in a field of grain. If any yeast was captured, the mixture would start to ferment and bubble, so you'd know that you had got some yeast. Gervase Markham wrote in his contemporary work that a housewife should be well practised in the well-making of malt, for as from it is made the drink by which the household is nourished and sustained. And ale-making was a very important job for the Tudor housewife, and the bells are ringing out for the Tudor housewife. She was very important. And it was one that also took a lot of time, although, of course, she could fit it round the other jobs that she had to do during the day. To make ale, barley was malted by spreading the barley grains out on a clean wooden floor, raking it out to distribute it evenly, and then watering it to make the grains swell and sprout. Are you listening to this? Because we might need your help making it. After watering it, the barley was raked into a smaller, deeper pile to allow warmth to build up in the grains. Moisture and warmth were crucial. After a week or so, when it had started sprouting, it needed to be dried out in a kiln. Once the barley had dried, water was boiled to sterilise it, and then the water was poured over a measure of the malt, the dried barley, which was put in a wooden tub. Herbs could be added at this point to add extra flavour, and the tub was then kept warm by wrapping it with a blanket. The resulting liquid, the wort, could then be drawn off into a fresh tub and another batch of boiled water poured onto the malt to make a weaker ale, which could be used for daytime drinking so that you didn't get drunk while you were doing your jobs. Ruth Goodman explained in the Tudor Monastery book that the frothy captured yeast was then added to the first batch, which was kept warm again to brew overnight. The next day, the froth or ale balm could then be taken off the ale and added to the second batch of ale with flavourings like elderflower and honey. Ale balm could also be used in bread making, so a double purpose. When cooled, the ale was strained. The butts of ale were kept in the buttery. Ale making was done, as I said, by the woman of the house, by the Tudor housewife. There was strong ale, which came from the first mash, standard ale that came from the second steeping of the mash, and small ale from a secondary mashing, the watered down version that was served to women and children. So ale was the standard drink, not water ale, the drink that everyone consumed, even children, because it was safer than water. And of course, it had to be brewed regularly so that there was always enough to feed the household. So it would be brewed every few days. And also because it went off, you couldn't keep it for very long. There was also beer. Like ale, it was made with malt, barley and water, but it also had hops in it, and it lasted longer because of the hops. And it became more and more popular as the Tudor period went on because of the fact that it could last longer. And like ale, there were different strengths, with small beer being the weakest. So there you go, I've taught you a little bit about the main staple drink of the Tudor period, ale, which was enjoyed by everybody, no matter what class they were, no matter their age. It was the standard drink. You're falling asleep. Am I that boring? Don't answer that. We'll be back tomorrow with another Teasel's Tudor Trivia. Thank you for joining us. Bye-bye.
Wonderful. Teasel's Tudor Trivia.
Oh, yuck.